The people of Egypt are the inheritors of the pharaohs, kings who built with eternity in mind. Creating something that has endured across the centuries. Their legacy is the Egyptian heart. Forged in adversity in the desert, nourished on the fertile banks of the Nile. There have been Egyptians and in Egypt for 5,000 years. They share honor and discipline, joy, hope, and acceptance. This is their Egypt, their country, through their eyes. Egyptians know their country as the mother of the world. In Cairo, 17-year-old Ali lives among the chaotic crowds of Africa's largest city. While in the pharaonic capital of Luxor, Mansour Bourek explores the silent secrets of his ancestors. Across the desert, in a remote oasis, Khadija Nenni lives by customs that keep her hidden from view. At the same time, in the capital, Yasmin Shihata wants to show the face of modern Egypt. Each of these people has their own Egypt, a place of change and constancy, of sudden chaos and serene calm. Each day, Cairo is awakened by the call to prayer. This first wave of sound builds to a roar as 18 million people start 18 million days. Among them, Ali Abdel Fattah Mohammed, a master of Cairo's streets and alleyways. He delivers bread, fresh from the oven, all over the old city.
If you're experienced, it's as if there are no obstacles in your way and there's no traffic. But the job's really hard, coming and going with the bread and carrying everything on my head. By the end of the day, my neck's killing me.
Ali works 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's the beginning of Ramadan. Along with 90% of the population, he's fasting. For Muslims, Ramadan is the most sacred time of the year. For 1 month, they do not eat or drink from sunrise to sunset. Not even a sip of water may pass their lips. But they must still find time and energy each day for both work and worship. Then, when evening prayers are over, the fast is broken with feasting known as iftar. For most of Cairo, Ramadan is a time of celebration. But for Ali, it's the busiest time of the year. The more feasting there is, the more bread he delivers.
I can earn up to $6 a day delivering bread on a bike. I live off $1 and save the rest for my family.
Ali was 7 years old when he came to Cairo. His parents sent him alone from their small village in the south. That was 10 years ago. Ever since, he has been the family's chief earner.
They need money. If it wasn't for me, they'd have to borrow from people. That's why I have to work hard, so they're not indebted to anyone.
When Ramadan is over, Ali plans to return home knowing he's done his duty. For over 4,000 years, the might of ancient Egypt's rulers has resonated across the nation and the world. The pharaohs built to ensure that their names would be remembered for all time. And today, their monuments still dominate their land. Nowhere in Egypt has as many ancient monuments as the city of Luxor. Once the pharaoh's ceremonial capital, it is now the richest archaeological territory on the planet. Here, the giant temple complex of Karnak was constructed over a period of 1,300 years by 30 pharaohs. Built on the east bank of the Nile, the ancient Egyptians believed Luxor to be the land of the living. Across the river, the west bank was the land of the dead. This is where the pharaohs constructed their sacred burial ground, the Valley of the Kings. Carved into solid rock, Tutankhamun and at least 50 other pharaohs sunk their tombs deep underground. Inside, elaborate hieroglyphs provided the dead with knowledge to help them on their passage in the afterlife. Their treasures were buried with them to impress their gods. Egyptologists have studied these tombs and their contents for almost 200 years. But just half a mile away, 600 more tombs remain unexplored. They're hidden beneath the village of Gourna. Villagers first built homes above tombs here at least 300 years ago. Most simply used the tomb's chambers as living space. Some profited from the treasures they found. As the village grew, the tombs became more and more deeply hidden. They were almost forgotten. Only now are they being properly explored. Mansour Bourek is one of Egypt's top archaeologists. Ahmed Abdel Rasul's family lives above one of the biggest tombs in the village. Its safekeeping has been a matter of family honor for generations.
كنت عايش كنا نايم هنا بقى ولا بتنام؟
نناموا هنا.
والله جوه المقبرة؟
والله.
جوه المقبرة؟
جوه المقبرة، في الصيف ده هواء طبيعي.
والله
العظيم، في الشتاء دفى.
لكن الحمد لله ما حدش كسر منها.
لا أنا دي أهدى في عندي أنا.
اتفضل.
اتفضل.
The tomb's former glory is obscured, but they can still see the reason why it was built.
الصدر اللي كان بيبقى عليه اللي هو الجعرين والتمام كانت بتبقى على منطقة الصدر دي. لكن هي الموميا ما نعرفش بقى هل سيدة أو راجل، دي هتبان لما تتفحص كويس. هو الموميا دي بقايا الموميا بتبان.
The remains of this mummy show that the tomb was looted at some point in the past.
بس منظر
The way the skeleton is broken tells me that whoever found it intentionally targeted the chest, because that is where the body would have been decorated with priceless jewelry.
اللي بتبقى ورا القلب وكده في الحاجات اللي كانت بتتباع. شكرا.
عفوا.
Mansour has seen enough to know that there is more to be uncovered. These tombs may be as important as any yet found. Near the ancient city of Luxor, a village built above unexplored pharaonic tombs is being evacuated. For Ahmed Abdel Rasul, it's the end of an era. The government has offered him a new home so the tomb hidden beneath his house can become the focus of Egypt's busiest archaeological dig. 45 locals have shifted close to 80 tons of dirt and debris, each bucket carefully checked for the smallest of artifacts. In the entrance, they've uncovered immaculate artwork, beautifully preserved. It suggests that this was the tomb of someone important. Experts in restoration reverse centuries of neglect using distilled water to uncover the original artwork. Already, they've found hieroglyphs that reveal the owner of the tomb, a noblewoman who died 3,000 years ago.
This has been a dream come true for us archaeologists. There are so many gaps in ancient Egyptian history that we hope to understand by uncovering these magnificent tombs.
The waters of the Nile are the lifeblood of Egypt. Most of the country sees less than an inch of rain each year. So this river, the world's longest, traveling over 4,000 miles, has always had an extraordinary power. For millennia, its pattern of flooding set the rhythm by which Egyptians lived. The pharaohs were the first to build gauges along its banks. They measured the river's height twice daily to see what it would bring. Too much water brought destruction. Too little brought drought. The right amount brought fertility to the land and promised a good harvest. Now, dams regulate the flow of the Nile. And yet, they've not tamed it. At a rate of 700,000 gallons per second, it pours endlessly north. Without it, there would be no Egypt. Away from the Nile, the only source of water in Egypt is its desert oases. The most remote of all, deep in the western desert, is Siwa. For over 3,000 years, this oasis has been supplied with a stream of fresh water from an immense underground reservoir. Rising up from 1.5 miles underground, its water flows all year round. This small town owes everything to the oasis. Isolated throughout time, its 30,000 people speak their own language and follow their own customs. To other Egyptians, it feels like a different country. In the town center, in its shops, along its streets, there are only men. From the first day of their marriage, Siwan women are concealed from the public world and live by customs thousands of years old. Khadija Nenni, a married mother of 5, has lived with Siwa's rules all her life. Like other Siwan women, she chooses not to leave her home.
When a Siwan woman wants to do anything outside the house, she has to ask permission from her husband. She has to take his permission the night before, not just before she leaves. If he says yes, then it's okay. But if he says no, then that's it.
عايزين خضار يا جابر.
خضار ايه؟
طماطم وبطاطس.
Like all Siwan women, Khadija cannot go out to shop. She must send her husband Gaber to buy groceries.
والصابون لوزن البيت.
عندك صابون ملح.
ما خلصناها الأسبوع اللي فات. نقول يعني لو نحن تعملنا زي
If we were to go into town to do our own shopping, they would raise hell about it.
يعملوا لك ميعاد.
It's the biggest taboo.
أكبر عيب عندنا.
Gaber is an outsider in Siwa. Born and raised in southern Egypt, he first came here as a young man to work as a builder. When he married Khadija, he married into the Siwan way of life.
No women go out. Customs and traditions dictate this. But I feel this is wrong. Women should be able to go out even if just for enjoyment or for a change of scenery. But then, what can you do?
زي كده يعني احنا عارفين يعني الكلام ده بس ايه.
But there is one place where Siwan women are allowed some freedom. Nearly every family owns a palm tree garden where they grow dates that are famous across Egypt, a source of immense pride as well as income. It is part of the home, yet separate from it. Getting there requires careful preparation.
عندنا لما تطلع أي يعني
When a Siwan woman is allowed to go out, she has to wear a dark jalabiya, cover her face, and wear a shawl over her clothes. No part of her body must show. It's the way it is here.
Today is the beginning of a new farming season, and Khadiga's extended family is traveling with her to the garden to celebrate. On arrival at the garden, the town's social rules can be left behind. It's the one place outside home where men and women, girls and boys can all interact together.
It's my garden, mine, not someone else's, so I'm at ease. I can take off my veil, roll up my sleeves, and start working. It's normal, because there are no strangers here.
The irrigation channels have been dry for 3 months. They're choked with weeds. It's the men's job to clear them before the water arrives. And in this garden, they take their orders from a woman.
They do what they are told, because I have fun with them. Things don't get done by shouting. You've got to get them used to working with women from a young age.
With the first rush of water comes the hope of a good harvest in 9 months' time.
When the water flows through the garden, I feel happiness, as though I was the one drinking.
This supply of water is the lifeblood of this tiny desert community. Without it, nothing would survive. The next day, Khadija receives some bad news. Her beloved aunt is ill and has been taken to the hospital. With her husband's permission, she's visiting her on the other side of town. After Khadija's mother died, her aunt brought her up. They've been especially close ever since.
In the old times, when a woman was very ill, her loved ones would go far into the desert to collect some sand, which they believed would bring blessings. When they returned, they would tie the sand in the woman's veil.
Khadija dreams of making this journey for herself. In living memory, no Siwan woman has ever ventured out into the desert. Now, to help her aunt, she plans on becoming the first. Outside of the home, men run Egyptian society. They hold 98% of the seats in government and are considered the providers of their families across the nation. Women are idealized as wives and mothers, but have always been celebrated for their beauty. Belly dancing is one of Egypt's most ancient art forms. Before the time of Cleopatra, women danced for each other and their families. Their dress was all covering. Only a scarf around their hips accentuated their movement. In the 1930s, the influence of Hollywood brought risque costumes that exposed the dancer's body. Today, the art of belly dancing is performed almost exclusively at weddings and for tourists. Across the nation, society expects women to embrace modesty, and there are few who don't happily comply. Some 90% of Egyptian women wear a head covering, their clothes an everyday expression of their beliefs. But there are some women who still seek to forge a new modern Egypt and a new role for themselves. Yasmin Shihatta is challenging long-held views about what Egyptian women can and cannot do. She's the creator and publisher of Egypt's best-selling women's lifestyle magazine, Enigma.
Egyptian society as a whole is very conservative, and it's actually getting more conservative. Most Egyptian girls are raised to feel that the be-all and end-all of their life is getting married and finding the right husband. We want to offer a new kind of role model for the Egyptian society.
This month, Yasmin's publishing a special wedding edition of Enigma. She's targeting wealthy readers, Egypt's top 1% who spend the most, but she also wants the magazine to have a much wider appeal. She's persuaded one of Egypt's most famous actresses, another Yasmin, to pose for the front cover. Yasmin Abdelaziz is the nation's sweetheart. Today, she's agreed to be photographed as she's never been seen before.
We do not feature veiled women on our covers. Our magazine is Western in the sense that our covers have to look slick and beautiful and be very well photographed.
Yasmin Abdelaziz will be shown baring her shoulders and wearing a dress that hugs her figure. In a country where the number of women wearing the veil is on the rise, this is a challenging statement. Yasmin lives in central Cairo with her mother and grandmother. Since the first issue, they've been some of the magazine's toughest critics.
We need to reduce the social pages.
Okay, you have to understand the clients all want to be put in the social pages. That's commercial suicide.
Commercial suicide?
It is. That's what people love.
Yasmin knows better.
Yeah.
Yasmin is this kind of personality. She has a vision and she goes after it. There are so many young Egyptians who are well educated and they want to have Egypt integrated with the world. So this is the market for Yasmin's magazine.
Tonight, the eyes of the city's elite will be watching Yasmin. She's hosting an exclusive party for Enigma's clients, Egypt's high society. Within a couple of hours, everybody who's anybody in Cairo is here. Yasmin's guests are some of the key decision makers in the nation. She needs their approval and support. These are the people that can make change happen.
Anything I can do to improve the image of Egypt and of Egyptian women and Egyptian society is really where I can make a difference in my life, especially at a time when the image of the Middle East is just getting worse and worse and worse. It's so important that people see my Egypt, my Arab world.
Finally, Yasmin's cover star arrives, and it's the publicity coup she was hoping for. The next week, Enigma's special wedding edition becomes a best-selling issue. The magazine is starting to influence a whole new generation of Egyptian women. the desert oasis of Siwa, women live by ancient traditions. At a school parade, girls are able to move freely through their town center, but it won't be for long. By 17, most Siwan girls are married. From their wedding day onwards, nearly all take on the traditional lifestyle lived by their mothers. In a last bid to help her aunt, Khadija has decided to make a pilgrimage into the desert. She wants to collect pure sand, once trusted by her ancestors to hold healing powers. Although a journey of less than 2 miles, it is one no Siwan woman has made in living memory.
We've been living all our lives here in Siwa, but I've never seen the desert. We've never been there. We don't know anything about it. We've heard that it's beautiful, but that's all.
ما نعرفوش حاجة عنها.
In this community where women must ask permission to leave their own homes, Khadija's trip into the desert is a brave act.
من الصحراء مبير واحد كنت رخت السي إن شاء الله قال
Khadija's aunt had been close to death. But 2 weeks after the visit, news comes that she has made a recovery which astonishes her doctors. She can return home. From Egypt's southern border with Sudan, the Nile flows north through the sands of the western desert, and it teems with life. Crocodiles compete with fishermen, eagles follow its line, and for most of its length, there are people. 95% of all Egyptians live along its banks. They drink its water. It feeds their crops, and since the beginning of recorded history, it has brought the country its wealth. It's more than 4,000 miles long and travels through 8 other countries. But the Nile is Egypt's river. In Cairo, Ali is racing to make a delivery before midday. During Ramadan, the entire city stops to pray at 12 noon. In the center of Old Cairo is Al Azhar Mosque, the spiritual heart of Egypt for over 1,000 years. This is where Ali answers the call to prayer. During this month of prayer, Muslims are expected to refrain from lying, anger, envy, and greed. It's a time for self-improvement.
فأيما مسلم بات جائع وأهل الحي يعلمون بأنه جائع فقد برئت منهم ذمة الله ورسوله. من هنا يحدث التعاون، وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان، ويحدث المحبة والمودة والألفة، لأن الصدقة بتزيل الحقد والكراهية من قلوب الفقراء على الأغنياء. فإذا أعطينا للفقير صدقة دعلنا بدل أن يدعو علينا.
The Imam's words speak directly to Ali and to the others at the bakery. Together, they contribute to one of Cairo's oldest traditions. Each evening during Ramadan, charity tables are set up for those who cannot afford to buy food. Bread the bakery could have sold is instead given to the needy. In Cairo, where at least 20% of the population lives beneath the poverty line, these meals are a very real blessing.
In Ramadan, when someone brings food, he'll ask others to join him, and they'll eat together. There's no such thing as asking someone to pay.
After fasting together, the city eats together. Safe in knowing that during Ramadan, at least, no one will go without. The vast continents of Africa and Asia are linked by Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. Its dramatic mountains were the setting of the Old Testament. Mount Sinai still commands the landscape. Over the millennia, a nomadic people have made the desert their home, the Bedouin. Their very name means inhabitants of the desert. For generations, they followed their herds, owning only what their camels could carry. Once 300,000 strong, only 22,000 Bedouins remain today. For them, the Sinai Desert offers everything they need to survive. Dr. Ahmed is the last of his kind. He's the only surviving Bedouin healer in the Sinai Peninsula. 67 years old, he walks over 10 miles a day to remote communities with no access to hospitals or modern medicine.
Every human ailment has a herb that works best. You just need the knowledge to know which herb is the right one to use.
Dr. Ahmed's brand of medicine is unique. The treatments that he uses are prepared from plants and herbs that only he can find. Some flower only once in a decade.
اسمها الكباث. لكن عندما يحط المادة دي تحت اللسان ها تحت اللسان كده عمل بقي كله مر. يعني النقطة الواحدة من دول تعمل لك مر عالي. بس بعدها الاقي ريق كتير. يعني ممكن يصير واحد بيجيب مسافر وبعدين عطش ما فيش ميه ونشف ممكن يحط منها نقطتين في بقه يجيب له النهرين شغل النهر تاني.
But now, as old age approaches, Dr. Ahmed has one mission: to pass his secrets on to a new generation before he dies.
Long ago, there wasn't a single tribe here who didn't have two healers, a man and a woman. Now, all we have left is one man, and that man is me. So if I die, there'll be no one left in herbal medicine.
Dr. Ahmed has found 6 local students to school in the science of herbal medicine. Like most young Bedouins today, they've never lived a nomadic life. He must teach them what Bedouin children once knew almost instinctively.
ازاي هنركب الدواء ازاي؟ خدوا بالكم يا ولاد، خدوا الفكره. بصوا كلكم بصوا على البيض بيطلع زي الزيت عشان بعدين ما تقولوش احنا ما شفناش. بصوا الزيت ما هو خرجها خلاص. ها كذي خف النار عنه شويه عشان تبدا الزيت يطلع. ها هذا الزيت. كذي ممكن ايه تاخذ منه علامة المفاصل. ها خلاص جاهز.
A Bedouin healer must be at one with the landscape.
يلا بسرعة تأخرنا سوق الجمال. يلا عشان نلحق. يلا يا عطية خش. يلا بسرعة.
Today, Dr. Ahmed is taking his boy students 100 miles into the wilderness of the desert once traveled by their grandfathers. They will have to make their own way home. To ensure their safe return, Dr. Ahmed is buying the boys the most essential piece of all Bedouin equipment.
ها؟ خلاص؟ متفقين انت يا ولاد؟ خلاص واحنا اتفقنا على البيع. خلاص ماشي.
With their brand new camel, Dr. Ahmed sends the boys home the hard way.
حتى كان عرفتوا طريق معكم مشوا في الليل، ما تمشوا في الليل عشان طريق في الليل ما يتوهش عنكم، خلفوا النهار. في الليل مرحوا، من الظلام يضرب مرحوا، ها؟ وتجيني في كاترين فوق، ها؟ ماشي؟ خلاص انا مستناكم. الواحد كان بيحلم بالموضوع من زمان وتحقق اليوم الحمد لله.
An everyday journey for their ancestors. For the boys, today this is a rite of passage. At his clinic, Dr. Ahmed waits for his male students. In the meantime, patients arrive from all over Egypt. Some travel for days to reach him.
واحدة ثالثة وخلاص. كذا خلاص إن شاء الله بالشفاء. بعد 3 أيام نعمل الثاني. الحمد لله بالسلامة. الله يسلمك. وين تأخرتوا؟ قعدنا في الطريق. قعدتوا كيف قعدتوا؟
God willing, the other students will also soon become doctors and herbal healers. So that when I die content, knowing that I've left a legacy, that I've done something lasting.
Ali has one more day of work at the bakery before he can return home. It's the last day of Ramadan, and the city is worn out after the month-long cycle of prayer and fasting. Sunset marks the end of Ramadan and what for Ali has been a month-long endurance race. He and his workmates can finally sit down to their own feast. Like the other boys, Ali has spent his youth working 7 days of the week and fending for himself. Tomorrow, at long last, he'll see his family. The day after Ramadan is known as Eid al-Fitr. At first light, the nation once again stops for prayer. It marks the beginning of the holidays, a time of forgiveness and thanksgiving celebrated by Muslims across Egypt. Ali has traveled all night. After 10 long months away from his village and his family, it's the welcome he wished for.
If it was up to me, I'd live in the village with my family, and I'd work and provide for them there. But the thing is, it's never been that simple. It's a great feeling when you've brought everyone their presents and greet them with a kiss on both cheeks.
Ali's wages have brought some peace for his family. He knows the importance of what he does.
If things were good, I wouldn't have let him go. I would have let him stay. But our situation needed it. We really needed it.
Ali's been the main breadwinner for 10 years. One day, one of his younger brothers will take over. Until then, he will carry on. For now, he can be proud. He is home and his family's hero. In Egypt, the ancient past is a living thing. Behind the veils of tradition, there is often an independent spirit. There are countless ordinary people, young and old, who make extraordinary sacrifices. And in this country, what seems a way of the past may be the way of the future. One people, many passions. Egypt.